guys ready for this? Time for a little workout. One lap of the swim. We're going to do 7 laps of the bike. Then we're going to pound a little pavement. After that, we're going to do it all over again.
Hello everybody, I'm Ian Sweet and welcome to round 8 of Triathlon's Professional Tour. We've moved away from Europe, across the waters to North America, to Canada, for the Toronto International Triathlon. The race is centered around the Indy circuit at the Canadian National Exhibition. And to tell us a little bit about the event and the athletes is Michael Landsberg, who's down in the stadium at the transition area.
Baseball, football, long gone from the floor of CME Stadium. Today, they've been replaced by the sport of the 90s. Today, it's triathlon. Triathlon. Hi, everybody. I'm Michael Landsberg. Triathlon, because it's swim, bike, run, then swim, bike, run all over again. It's the first time they've ever done that in North America. We'll see a fabulous field of women and men. We'll see 2 separate races. It'll happen lightning fast over the next hour. The age groupers are already on the course. You got to buckle up for this one for a number of reasons. Of course, there is the course. I'm not sure that anybody knows quite what to expect. And then there is the field. With the men, Mike Pigg is here. He is the premier short-distance triathlete in the world. And there are 3 Canadians who could knock him off: Frank Clark, Mark Bates, and Andrew McMartin. And with the women, a terrific field as well, including 2 of the best in the world, Karen Smyers and Michaela Jones. There is no doubt these women are going to be putting up some big numbers.
Big numbers, high temperatures, high speeds, and high heart rates.
You know, I really don't know the temperature, but I know it's hot enough to make me sweat, so it must be pretty hot out there. So I guess I'm just going to have to pray I don't pass out or anything.
Everything's going to be more difficult, basically. I mean, you're going to feel like your stroke isn't as long as it should be. Your legs are going to be sinking, so it's going to be pretty hard.
2.5K loops on the bike. I'll be like at 190, heart rate to 200.
I've been tested and my max is 203, so as long as I don't go over that, I think I'll be okay.
I want to just go as fast as I can. Sometimes when I read the numbers, like when it says 196, I think I'm going to die.
What about the men?
This type of race is going to take probably about an hour, 20 minutes. It's totally anaerobic for the most part.
I use a polar heart monitor and during the race, and I know exactly what my heart is at each time I corner and each time I come in and out of the swim.
My heart rate will probably be in the upper 160s because I have a relatively low heart rate.
I think the last kilometer of the run, right at the end of the race, it's going to be so hot and just so tired from the rest of the race. Your heart rate's just going to be, maxing out 180, 190 for me, and just hang on. Anaerobic is being to the point where you don't need drugs to hallucinate. That's how high your heart rate's going to be. I think on the bike, from what I can see, it's totally flat, and there's part with the downwind, and I'd say we'd probably be going around 50, 55K an hour in there, and just smoking.
One thing they've added to the bike is drafting, which is, I've only been in one race like that, and that's going to raise the speeds about 2 miles an hour faster.
It depends on how the group's going, but you shot by a few people, you can get up 55, 60 kilometers an hour if it's got any type of tailwind to it at all.
Well, that's just what the athletes see and notice their thoughts. And for once, we're actually going to have 2 separate races. We're going to focus on the women for the first 2 parts of this program, and the second 2 parts, the men. And these are the favorites, I suppose. Michaela Jones, the white hat. The orange hat is Karen Smyers. In the background is Donna Peters. And, well, Smyers heads the TPT rankings coming into this race, but by a slender 10 points over Michaela Jones. That's Wendy Ingram just diving in, ex-collegiate swimmer, so she's certainly used to that. And we're going to see a lot of that after the first swim, bike and run. So as they told us, they start off with a 500-meter swim, then it's 12.5 kilometers on the bike, then it's 2.8 kilometers of running, and then they do it all again, except they double the run. They finish off with a 5-kilometer run. So this is the swim. It's a rectangular course within Lake Ontario. In fact, it's inside the harbor where they do a lot of demonstrations here at the Canadian National Exhibition. And well, this is really an ideal setting. It's a week before the Indy, a week after the Indy took place, the IndyCar racing, and many of the facilities are still in place. So these are the ones to look out for. White, Michaeli Jones; orange, Karen Smyers; the blue hat of Donna Peters; purple hat of Wendy Ingram. Another woman in purple is Carolyn Hubbard, the Canadian, better known for her longer distance specialty. She won the World Series 3 years ago, the World Ironman Series. Sharon Donnelly, another Canadian's got a blue hat on. And Natasha Helga, we haven't really seen anything at all of her on the Pro Tour. She's been racing the ITU World Cup, had a few 6th places. So, well, let's see how she fares with some of the professionals who've been supporting the Pro Tour. And this is Wendy Ingram, nearest the camera, Wingnut Ingram, and Michaeli Jones. That's Michaeli Jones, the world champion a couple of years ago. She won that title in Manchester, and since then she's really dominated this Pro Tour. We caught up with Karen Smyers, #1 ranked professional woman, who's really been in the sport since 1984.
I've been doing this for 11 years now. And when I first started, I was still working full-time, and I kept that job up until about 1989. And when I finally went to a full-time triathlete, I improved a lot quickly. And in 1990, I actually won the World Championships, which was probably still one of the highlights of my career.
And what happened to her job before she went into triathlon?
My company actually went bankrupt when I first quit my job, and I actually, for a couple of years, did some sort of freelance consulting. I had a computer at home and would do a little bit of that. I thought, oh yeah, I'll keep this up forever. You know, it's good to keep my brain active and everything. But it got a little bit more difficult to fit in my day as, you know, I started getting better and having more commitments in terms of sponsors and things. And I pretty much found that I could do without the computer stuff pretty quickly. And that's something I probably could always go back to, although this industry kind of takes off without you if you're not really involved in it. It changes so fast.
Well, Karen's married to Mike King, who owns a bar in Boston.
I met my husband in around 1988 or 9. He started to train with me a little bit. We got married just a few years ago, and he trains with me every day now, and that's been a real help to my career, because it makes it fun for me as well. I mean, it's like I get to take my social life along with me, you know, when I go out to train. It's not like I'm leaving a lot of my life behind when I go out the door.
Well, is Karen competitive?
I can be very, very competitive out on the race course, but then pretty relaxed off of it. And I think it keeps me from being too burnt out during, you know, a season. Because if you're carrying around all these, you know, nerves and everything from race to race and week to week, you tend to, it just wipes you out, you know. So that's one of the things that I think, maybe it's because I'm a little bit older or I've been doing it so long, but I really tend to just be able to enjoy myself going from race to race and kind of relaxing a little bit. And I'm also getting to that point where I know I only have a few more years, and I really want to milk everything for all it's worth. So I'm trying to really kind of stop and smell the roses as I go.
Well, that's Karen Smyers, the #1 ranked professional woman, with a slender 10 points advantage over Michaeli Jones coming into this race. And Michaeli Jones, well, she's certainly to the fore at the moment with Wendy Ingram. They're just coming up to the end of that 1,500-meter swim. Karen Smyers comes out in 3rd position. In fact, no, it's Paddy Simpson is out in 3rd position. Karen Smyers is just a bit off the pace. Here she comes through now behind Natasha Helga Holt and Sharon Donnelly. One Canadian and, well, Helga Holt, she's New Zealand. But this is Jones and Ingram. They've made their way up through. It's about a 400-meter run from the swim exit out of Lake Ontario up into the stadium. And, well, they've given Ingram 7 minutes and 55 seconds and Jones 7 minutes 56. So they're both at the bike rack now. It's a quick transition because obviously this is a sprint. Speed is of the essence. That's Paddy Simpson at the bike rack. 8 minutes they gave her. That's Smyers through. 8 minutes, 12 seconds. Simpson just heads out, as does Natasha Helgeholt. So there we are. Karen Smyers is out on the way now. It's a 12.5-kilometer bike, 5 laps at the C&E. Each lap is about 2.5 kilometers. This looks like Donna Peters just going through. 8:24 they've given her.
They've just finished 500 meters of swimming. They're going to head off, come past us 5 times.
So there we are. There's Peters, one of the better bikers in the sport, although this most probably is a little quick for the Carolyn Hubbard, the Canadian, also a long-distance specialist. She's the last pro woman out. She's 9 minutes and 5 seconds. So the professional women are now out on this second of 6 disciplines: swim, bike, run, swim, bike, run. And the leaders, well, that's McKeely Jones and Wendy Ingram. We can see that Paddy Simpson seems to be struggling a little to hang out with the best of the sport, and this is the best woman in the sport. Karen Smyers behind this woman, McKeely Jones. So McKeely Jones has a little look behind, and the difference here is drafting is allowed. The professionals agreed that they would allow a drafting in this race. So if you digest the standings after that opening swim, we'll go for a short break. Round 8 of Triathlon's Professional Tour. We're in Toronto for the Toronto International, and we're with the women's race. This is the first race of 2. And swim, bike, run, and they're on the first bike. And Wendy Ingram, who came out the water with McKeely Jones, is just cruised by. I was mentioning just before the break that drafting is allowed in this particular race. It's not normal on the Pro Tour, but the athletes agreed that this criterion circuit, 5 laps around the C&E, it would be difficult not to draft, so they're giving it a go. And many of the athletes, well, it's their first time. Of course, the athletes racing today who've been racing on the ITU World Cup are used to that because the World Cup allows drafting. And well, I must admit, I'll sit on the bench. I don't care either way. For us, provided it's racing, that's what we like in any sport, competition. This is Smyers down in 3rd position. She's trying to work hard, turn the big gears to catch the 2 in front. But they're working together, so that's going to be pretty tough going for Smyers. But this is Ingram, the girl from Walnut Creek, just outside of San Francisco. And behind her, McKeely Jones, the Australian, who lives for most of her year in Carlsbad, just outside of San Diego in California. We're expecting good things of Ingram in the Hawaii Ironman coming up later on Eurosport. She won Ironman Australia, and well, she's hoping for her best performance yet in Hawaii. McKeely Jones, well, she doesn't touch that long distance stuff like Hawaii. She specializes over this shorter distance and the standard triathlon distance, what we used to call the Olympic distance. And I suppose today's race, well, that's just slightly short of the Olympic distance. They're only going to be swimming 1,000 meters, but adding up the bike, they're a little short there, but the run, well, that's just slightly short as well. And I suppose for the best, about an hour and a half as opposed to 2 hours normally. Smyers still in 3rd position. She's closed a little bit on McKeely Jones and Wendy Ingram, but she's finding this tough out by herself. You can see she's having to dig really deep because she knows she's got to get into contention. So we're off the bike for the first time. Now it's a quick change. And, well, I think only 1 or 2 of them are actually wearing the specialist duathlon pedals, so most of them have to change from cycling shoes into running shoes, as we saw Jones and Ingram doing here. Well, Jones was much quicker through the transition, and she's used to this. Ingram's not. There is a thing called the Australian Grand Prix, which we might be showing on Eurosport next year, whereby they have 6 races in a couple of months down in Australia, and all of them are this type of format. Fast, made-for-TV, spectacular. So Smyers, she's 3rd into the bike park. 22 minutes and 25 seconds was her split, as opposed to 22 minutes 10 seconds for McKeely Jones. 22:20 for Wendy Ingram. 4th in, Donna Peters. She's moved through a little bit. She's passed some of the slower athletes and now is getting back into contention. 22:35. She's only 10 seconds or so adrift of Karen Smyers at this stage. But, well, Jones is here, turn the screw a little bit.
How'd you feel on the bike?
Good, it's windy out there.
Yeah, and the swim?
Beautiful.
Yeah. You looking forward to going back in?
Oh, yeah.
How was your bike? You had trouble with it? Or it got here late? Was it okay?
Yeah, it was there for me at the start.
Was the seven okay?
Well, we obviously have a very knowledgeable cameraman here. He knew that Jones had a bit of a problem getting her bike to the bike park before the race, but it came on time. She's enjoying it. She's looking forward to the next swim. A little unusual. This is normally the end of the working day for them. They've swum, they bike, and they run, but not here. They've got to swim, should I say, bike and run again. And certainly for Smyers, this is going to be very new for her. You can see the temperature is rising, the sweat is starting to gather on their bodies because it is about 35 degrees, it's in the afternoon, and well, this is not easy, certainly. As I said, they normally have finished their working day at the end of this leg, but they've got to really do it all again. So Smyers from Lincoln, just outside of Boston in Massachusetts, with Jones, the Australian, at the fore. 26-year-old Jones, whereas Smyers is 34. She's been in this sport quite some time. Wendy Ingram, oh, she's 31. And I suppose like Smyers, she's been around the American circuit for quite some time. So this is still Jones now as they both head towards the Lake Ontario for the second time into the water. Well, this is it. This is Smyers is making the move. I said she was starting to catch them, and Ingram is, I don't think she's slowed down any. It's just that Smyers has set a cracking pace through this second discipline, the 12.5-kilometer run. There we are. That's nice camaraderie for you. As Smyers had too much fluid and was quite happy to give some to Wendy Ingram. It's good to see friendship in any sport. So, Jones leads. Smyers now second. Ingram third. Donna Peters, she's off the pace a little bit. She's back in fourth position. But Jones is coming up towards the end of this 2.8-kilometer run. Just one lap. They had bike round here 5 times, and now there's just one lap before they get back to the lake. And this is a little different. Back into the water. And we caught up with Graham Fraser, who happens to be the race director, and he really did give us the triathlete's point of view.
This triathlon. Never do you see it where they go from run to swim. Right now I feel like I'm about 100 degrees. I just completed a 3K really, really hard run, and my body is just blistering. I've got to have a quick transition with my shoes, make sure they're in the place I leave them so I know when I get out where the shoes are. Now I've got to go into the water, and I'm not looking forward to this. Okay, the swim was very difficult. I didn't have good eye vision. You don't wear goggles when you have such a short swim like that. You don't have time to put them on. Right now, all the blood flow is to my upper body. I've got to get it back to the legs. It's very hard to have a quick transition when you're sort of wobbly and numb. So I got the shoes on. Now I've got to work it out, get the legs going. I don't want to hammer this first hill, but I might have to if the competition goes, because drafting is allowed in this race, and I don't want to lose the pack.
He's making his way up to the transition area because that's where they've got to go after the swim. And I mentioned earlier, it is about a 400-meter run. So this is our lead woman. This is Makili Jones coming up to start her second and final swim. She ran the 2.8 kilometers in 11 minutes and 7 seconds they've given her. And there we are. It's a dive back into the water, a little unusual. I used to dive it in because some of these races we do have a sort of a running start, mostly off the beach, not many times off the ramp. This is Smyers now in second place. She's actually run 5 seconds quicker than Jones. She's been given an 11 minute and 2 second split for that first run. Unlike Jones, she puts her a swim cap back on, so at least we can identify her. Ingram's back in third position. She's dropped a little bit over that last kilometer. 12 minutes she took for the run, with Donna Peters down in fourth position. So this is Ingram going in. She's like, whoa, she's just had a little slip there, and that might as well have done a little damage. But up front, it's still Makili Jones. You can see she didn't wear the goggles in the first 500 meters, and she's certainly not wearing them now. They don't have time to put on the goggles. I suspect some of the slower athletes may well do that for comfort, because obviously this is Lake Ontario. It is fresh water, but there will be a little stinging to the eyes. Well, there's the standings after that first swim and bike and run. So, as Wendy told us at the preview, they've got to do it all again. Mrs. Jones, our leader, coming up towards the end of the second 500-meter swim. Exactly the same swim course. This is where they do a lot of water displays normally during the exhibitions. So Jones comes up to the ramp for the second and final time. And she certainly looks a little slower than she was during the opening 500-meter swim, and who can blame her? She's biked, 12.5 kilometers. She's run nearly 3 kilometers, and now she's swum. So there we are. She's coming out of the ramp. Now, it's find her shoes. Some of them change, some of them don't, for this 400-meter run up to the stadium where they'll find their machine, their bike, for the final bike section. There we are. She hasn't bothered to put her shoes on. Smyers is out in second place. Ingram, in fact, has caught up quite considerably. She was just a minute behind going into the water. She's virtually caught that up. So Jones is up towards the transition area, and they've given her 9 minutes and 24 seconds for that swim, as opposed to 7 minutes and 56 seconds for that opening run. So she's what? About a minute 10 seconds slower for the second. Smyers, she was 10:13 as opposed to 8:12. So she was 2 minutes slower on that second swim. And Ingram, well, she was 9:40 for the second time and 7:55. There we are. Jones says she thinks she broke her toe on the way in, and certainly Wendy Ingram has done a little damage to her foot. Smyers is coming into second place here. See, she was, unlike Jones, she put on her running shoes for that long run up to the transition area. They call it swim, bike, run, but I think it's swim, run, bike, run, swim, run, bike, run. Oh, there we are, I got that right. A double quadrathlon. This is Ingram, there we are, she's up there. You can see she certainly is anaerobic, as out of breath. For those of you who don't understand these medical terms, these sporting terms. So there she goes. She seems to be turning a huge gear, or she's got some problems and can't get going properly. So this is actually what happened. This is the actual action replay of Wendy Ingram going into the water. You see she's just about right. Then she loses her footing just there. And as she enters, her back foot actually knocked the ramp, and it's done quite some considerable damage to her ankle, and it's unlikely that she'll finish this second bike. But this is someone who most probably will, although she said she thought it broke her toe. This is McKillie Jones, the Australian. She's out to the fore now. She's got some clear space behind her. Karen Smyers is something like a minute adrift as she now spreads around these 5 laps, making up another 12.5 kilometers of running. You see the huge stands here for the IndyCar, and wouldn't it be nice to see them full of spectators for this, the triathlon? And I think as the sport progresses, and it is growing quite considerably, especially with the Olympic status that it now has, it's going to be on the 2000 Olympics, and I must admit, I think this type of format could be good in the Olympic Games, but well, that's what, five or so years away, so we've got a long time to go for that. It's not in the Atlanta program, which is a little unfortunate. So this is Smyers in second position. These are the standings after that second swim. The New Zealander, Natasha Hilgenholt, is still there. Donna Peters, in fact, lost a position during that section. But Jones, well, she's passing some of the slower members. That looks like Callan Hubbard. She's just gone past. They're a lap back. They've just started their bike section, whereas Jones is coming up towards the end of her bike section. That looks like Sharon Donnelly, but she's a lap behind Jones, with Smyers in second position. So this is the American chasing down the Australian. Of course, Jones won those professional championships at Mountain Man. Smyers had won it for the last 2 years, but this year, well, she had to be satisfied with second place. Although she gave it her best shot, it wasn't quite good enough. And unfortunately, Wendy Ingram, that foot injury, has, well, it's really forced her out of the race, and that's a little unfortunate, and hopefully she'll get fit for Hawaii, which isn't all that far away. It's only a month or so, a couple of months away within this race. And we're certainly looking forward to that performance of Ingram out in Kona on the Big Island. But this is Jones coming off the bike for the final time. And, well, she's just got the run now. 5 kilometers of running to go. 23:16 for that bike split, as opposed to 22:10 for the first. So she was about a minute slower. So that's a good performance by Jones on that second bike. She kept the speed up, and bear in mind, on the first time she had Ingram to help her, so that really does put that achievement into perspective. So there she heads out now, just 2 laps of the CNE, with Smars now coming into second place, 23:02. So she's a little quicker. She's 14 seconds quicker. She's caught up a little bit of ground, but she's only just over half a minute slower than she was on the first bike split. She was 22:25 there, 22 minutes 25 seconds. So there we are. Picks up the number and off she goes again for the final run. Just 5 kilometers to go before the end of this Toronto International Triathlon. Donna Peters, the American, in 3rd position. And surprisingly, her bike split is a little slower than Smars. She was 23:32 this time. And that's, well, just about a minute slower than she was on the first lap. You can see I mentioned the duathlon shoes and pedals. Peters is the only professional woman who actually has got duathlon pedals on a bike, so she runs and bikes in those running shoes, and that is an advantage because it gives a very quick transition. Although Jones here certainly cruised through that transition area very quickly indeed. Smars in 2nd position. She's well, she's under a minute. She's only about a half a minute behind Smars. Smars is only half a minute behind Jones, and she doesn't realize that McKeely Jones has actually hurt her foot, hurt her toe, and is, well, she's not hobbling along, but she's not going as quickly as she should be. So they are virtually the same, except of course we've lost Wendy Ingram. And you can see Jones here is desperate for fluids. It really is quite warm, and she's starting to burn up in the heat. It's in the CNE Centre, and of course the heat just sticks in amongst the stadiums here. You see, she's desperate.
Hold. Go, Steve, go! Go! Hold!
So she's now quite considerably. She's about 30 seconds clear of Smars, and if she wins here, that means she will go to the head of the pro rankings. So not only will she be the professional champion this year, but she'll also be the #1 ranked professional after Toronto. Just come away from a win in the Danskin Seattle race. This is Smyers. Not sure why she's looking at a clock. Perhaps she knows she's got some timing points out. She knows how far it is to go, and it's not very far. She can see, in fact, Jones straight down in front of her, who's coming up towards the finish of the Toronto Triathlon, whereas Smyers has still got a few hundred meters to go. But this is Jones. She's on the homeward stretch. She's just coming into the barriered off area, the cordoned off area, so she can see the finish line. And there we are. She says, I'm #1, and she is #1. She's going to move to the head of the pro rankings, and if Smars finished 2nd, which it looks as though she's going to, she's going to be ahead. She was behind by 10 points. Well, she's now going to be in front by 10 points. 100 points for winning, 80 for second, so that reverses the situation at the top of the pro rankings for women. Smyers is going to be content with 2nd. Jones 1:33.08, and Smyers 1:33. She's going to be well, under 30 seconds behind. So with another perhaps kilometre, Smyers could well have reversed that. 18:38 split. She was 45 seconds quicker than Jones on that final run. So these are the rankings of the positions of the women at the end of the Toronto event. And we caught up with the leaders, Jones and Smyers, after the race, and we asked them both how the race went for them.
So what happened?
Well, you know, that second swim I dived off the ramp, and unfortunately my toe got caught in the ramp, and it hurt like hell, but you know, your sort of adrenaline keeps you going.
Any thought at all of quitting?
No, not at all. My race plan was, you know, take it a little easy on the first race. It's very hot out there, and I knew if I got any time on Karen, it should be very hard to catch. And when I had a minute off the bike after the second bike, I was really happy. I knew I could cruise the run.
Did you know that Michaela had hurt herself?
No, I knew that I was catching up a little bit on the second run, but I mean, I don't know, maybe she broke her leg or something, I would have caught her, but I guess a toe wasn't enough.
Did you think you had a shot at all?
You know, I never give up, and I knew I was making up time, but the thought went through my mind is I could kill myself and catch up to her, and then she'd still out-sprint me, so I was trying to not think about that, and just try and, you know, pick off time little by little.
There we are. Jones is now number 1, 500 points. Smyers second with 490. Well, we'll go for a break, then come back for the men's race. Welcome back to Toronto for the Toronto International Triathlon, round 8 on Triathlon's professional tour. It was Michaela Jones, the Australian, for the women, and who's it going to be for the men? Exactly the same format, swim, bike, run. That's a 500-meter swim, 12.5K bike, and 2.8-kilometer swim, and then they do it all again. 2.8-kilometer run, I should say. That's Jeff Devlin there, number 6, talking to one of the age groupers who finished earlier. This is Wes Hobson, the boisterous Wes Hobson. Certainly enjoys his sport, enjoys being in the sport, and he's always the one to joke and to mess around. This is Andrew McMartin just going in. So we've got a fair field here today. Kenny Glaubt, the American, and he's going to be one of the, was probably the only athlete who's going to wear a wetsuit. He's a slightly weaker swimmer than the rest, and bear in mind he's got to rip the thing off after the end of the first swim, and I'm sure he's not going to put it on for the second swim. This is Kenny Glaubt from Westchester, Pennsylvania, same place as Jeff Devlin. Mark Bates, the Canadian, he'll wear the yellow swim cut, as we can see. Get some friendly support here by his, I'm not sure if it's his girlfriend or his wife. So we're just about ready to go. 500 meters of swimming, and there we are. We can see the stands down the other side. This was a whole weekend of sport, and one thing there was also was the power skate competition. They had hundreds of rollerbladers that came to come around this. Well, in many ways it's a perfect environment for roller skating, all ages, all sizes, as you can see by our pictures. And just like the ice skating, it's a great sight to see them all lined up, synchronized, men and women. Good fun. Certainly good fun for everyone. They certainly enjoy themselves here at the CNE. This is Mike Pigg, the white cap. He's he's down in 4th place on the rankings behind Lessing, Welsh and Hobson. Greg Welsh, the Australian, heads the rankings coming into this race. So here we are. That's the start. And director tells us to look out for Hamish Carter, the New Zealander, certainly used to this format. He's raced the Australian Grand Prix, and he's also raced the World Cup this year, so he's used to drafting. Many of these athletes are not. So this is the men's race underway. 500 meters of swimming. They basically go up the course for 250 meters, turn around and come back again. Ideal. So the water temperature, 22 degrees centigrade, above the legal limit, although wetsuits can be used at this in this race. Well, within the sport of triathlon, it's used to be the Big 4, but Mike Pigg changed all that to make it the Big 5. And why?
I like to hurt people early, so if they call that the machine, then that's the machine.
Mike Pigg has set new standards in triathlon, as well as his new totally clean image. He leads by example.
For me, it's flat out.
Well, Pigg's better known as the Pig Power, or the Piglet to his friends. He gives 100% as a sportsman and has devoted his life to further his sporting achievements. Totally focused on what he needs to do.
Triathlon is such a focused sport. I mean, you have to almost give your whole life to it. You spend the whole day, you wake up, you swim, you bike and run, you eat and sleep, and that's about it. So I look for anything new. I mean, I just got excited about building a workbench for a friend of mine who's a jeweler. And just to spend that 4 hours in the garage working with saws and hammers and screws and stuff, that was exciting for me, something new to do.
Well, Pigg loves all sports and fully appreciates what it takes to get to the top of any sport, not just triathlon.
I really like watching other sports, the best of the best. Whether you're watching tennis or basketball or football, it's nice to see what the best athletes in the world in that event can do, and I get excited about watching that. I like what Michael Jordan can do in basketball. I like what Greg LeMond did in cycling. I like what Michael Indurain can do, a 5-time winner of the Tour de France. Agassi, gosh, just every sport there's some athlete that I like what they're doing, or I like how they present themselves in the sport, their attitude, how professional are they, how good are they for the spectators to watch, you know, are they good role models and stuff like that. I really look into that as into a great athlete.
Well, Pig also takes inspiration from other top sportsmen, but he has to work hard for his own personal achievements.
Those inspire me, because that's the kind of line I think I'm coming from. Is I don't think I have much talent, but I have a lot of heart and use it to the best ability, and that's the way it is.
Well, he certainly has a lot of heart, and his body is a real machine. He hasn't dominated the sport in recent months, but he's always been up there. He's always in contention, and he always gives his best. But our leader at the moment, well, this is Bruce Davison, Canadian. In black is Hamish Carter. Behind him in second position, and we can just see the lights of Kenny Glass there. Mike Pigg is there, the white hat. But this is Davison. He's a local boy, coming good certainly here. He hasn't raced on the Pro Tour, but he's certainly racing exceptionally well here. He's coming up towards the end of the 500-meter swim, just a few meters to go. He has a helping hand out, as it's now getting pretty slippery on that ramp, and we saw some injuries from the women in the earlier race, and hopefully the men will be a little safer. This is Hamish Carter coming out in second position. You can see it's still very slippery there. 6 minutes 55 seconds, Davison's time. And this is Andrew McMartin coming out. Looks like Kenny Glass saying, come on, give me a hand, going out there. That's Wes Hobson just gone through the picture. Mark Lees, the purple hat. So, well, there's a whole gaggle of them coming out there in contention. Mike Pigg was up there. This looks like the yellow is Mark Bates, and right beside him, Frank Clark. So the two Canadians locked in mortal combat there. As our leaders, well, they're coming up towards the transition area now. I mentioned before, it's that 400-meter run up to the transition area. Here's Davison coming up through. 6 minutes 55 seconds for that opening run. Swim and run, should I say, although it's just classed as a swim. That's Hamish Carter right behind, 7:17. So he gained quite a lot coming up to this the transition area. You can see they're right in the middle of the stadium. It's seen some great sports in its time, this CNE Stadium, and it's seen another one today. So Davison was out first, Carter second, Wes Hobson just going through the picture there, and Kenny Glass is also just there. You just see him in the background, as many of the others going through. So it's very evenly matched at the moment, but the leaders, well, they're further down the road. That's Hobson and Carter are setting stand. That's Glass just going out of the picture. Jeff Devlin well off the pace, just see him at the far side of the picture. So he's got a lot of work to do, but he is a great biker, and I'm sure he'll move up a few positions during this second discipline, the 12.5 kilometer bike. But these are our leaders. This is Hobson, still fiddling with his shoes, can't get his shoes quite in, as Carter, well, he's not quite right as well, has to strap himself in a little more tightly. He looks behind, and now what we'll see is these two working together to try to stay away from those coming up behind, but they're closing the gap very quickly. Carter's certainly pushing the big gear here. Hobson's tucking in behind. He'll swing out in a minute and take some of the lead and try to keep the cadence high, the momentum high. There he goes, the slingshot effect. We've seen it in Formula One recently. We don't see it often in triathlon. And certainly these guys are trying to draft correctly. I think one of the problems is going to be later on in the year, though, certainly at Cancun at the World Championships, could be that when you've got 50 or 60 guys in this position, they're going to be on tri-bars, which could be a little dangerous. And I think that's something the governing body has to look into and see whether it's worthwhile doing what the cyclists do, ban them in this second discipline, because of the safety reasons. So this is the course. It's actually 12.5 kilometers. It was changed a day before, but unfortunately our graphics weren't changed to coincide with that. So these are our leaders still. It's Hamish Carter. See Mark Lees is in there. This is Mike Pigg. He's certainly got through. He was a minute or so down after the swim. He's now come through to push the pace. He said he likes to make them hurt, and one of the problems is here, he's going to be hurting himself, and the others will be just taking a bit of a ride behind him. So this is Pigg leading. Carter in second place. Hobson sat up at the back there. You can see the difference. Pigg's working quite hard at the front, and there's quite a streamlining effect behind him, and the others can just, well, they can have a breather. So Carter says, come on, let's keep this going. So we've got Andrew McMartin is in there, the Canadian. Mark Lees is on the back end, the Australian. So we've got a couple of Antipodeans. We've got Hamish Carter, the New Zealander, and Australian Mark Lees. Carter, Pig, McMartin, Hobson, and Lees. So this is Carter and Pig, taking it in turns at the front. Well, as they get on their way towards the transition, we'll go for a short break. Well, that's the first of the bikes out of the way here at the C&E Centre, the Toronto International Triathlon, round 8 of the professional tour. And the leaders, they're all in the bike park. This is Mark Lees nearest the camera, so let's see who's quickest through the transition area. So this is Lees. He's out through. Pig was there, Hobson was right behind, McMartin was there, and on the back end, just going out last, Hamish Carter. Well, Lees was given the fastest split. Here he is leading, the 22-year-old Australian. 20 minutes and 7 seconds for that 12.5 kilometers of biking. He's raced a couple of Pro Tour races this year. He was 6th in St. Anthony's, 16th down in St. Croix. So there we are. Coming actually in through the timing, it was Carter, and for some reason Mark Bates should be Mark Lees. So we got the marks right, but not the surnames. This is McMartin though.
Steve, go.
First time I've seen him with a beard. The Canadian, although he doesn't come from this part of the country. He's from the other side. It's from Westbury. Mike Pig here with the shaved head. He did it a couple of years ago, and his wife Marcia wasn't too sure, but she says I like it now. So there we are. That's the quick run out the way. That was 2.8 kilometers of running. McMartin goes the wrong way there. That's really bad briefing. He should have known better. He's a professional. So Lees takes the lead. Carter behind, McMartin, and then Hobson in 4th position. There was Lees. Like Ingram, he slipped on the ramp, and that could have done some damage. This is Hobson. See how he does. Wow, there we are. He took out nice and early. Mike Pig in 5th position. So it's fast and furious. Swim, bike, run, and swim, bike, run again. What a dive by Pig. That certainly got him up a couple of yards. But this is McMartin with the beard, and up front with the black cap. Thanks, Hamish Carter, for that. At least we know who's up in front. There's Hamish Carter, McMartin, Mark Bates, should be Mark Lees, Wes Hobson, and Mike Pig. Those are the main contenders, and I think the major honours are going to come from those 5. Apart from Bates, of course, who should be Lees. But this is Carter. Be interesting to see. The women were about a minute slower for this second swim, the second 500 meters, exactly the same as the first time through. So Carter's coming up towards the end of it now, with McMartin in 2nd place and Wes Hobson down in 3rd position. Pig, he's got a few seconds to make up if he's going to come for a victory here in Toronto. So that's Carter out of the water. This is McMartin. Hobson, that's a fine swim by Hobson. He's known as a weaker swimmer, but he's certainly not swimming weak at the moment. And this is Pig coming out in 4th position. Carter, well, he was given 8:49 as opposed to 7:17 for that first swim. So he's over 2 minutes slower. Well, that's amazing. This is Lees coming through, though, in... not Lees, sorry, that was Carter coming through. Lees has got a bit of an injury, you understand. We saw him slipping off the end of the board, and he did drop off, and in fact he's retired during that swim section. But this is Pig in 4th position, so Carter was first out, McMartin and Hobson, and Pig is about, well, he's about 30 seconds or so off the pace. So once again, as he had to do on the first time on this, the bike section, the 12.5 kilometers, 5 laps of the C&E, he had to work hard to get back into contention with these leaders. So it's Hobson, Carter. We saw this about 10 minutes or so ago, didn't we? It looks like a repeat, but here they are. This is Carter. The pack is closing up. Got a couple of stragglers in there who've been lapped, but it's Carter and Hobson who's certainly into contention there. And also in there is McMartin. So can Pig make up that deficit? Here he is. He's out on his lonesome. You can see he really is working hard, breathing heavy. He's certainly anaerobic, trying to catch them down. Knowing Pig, he is a fantastic biker. He most probably will do that. This is our leaders lapping one of our slower athletes. Carter cruises by, Hobson cruises by. You can see they're all lining up here, and I'm sure that the straggler will tuck in and get an advantage. They say you get about a 10% advantage by sucking on the wheel behind, drafting, taking pace. Of course, it's allowed here. Pig has caught them up. We can just see Pig at the background there. So Pig, once again, he's made up that 30-second deficit, and he's all right on the back end. What a tremendous performance by Pig. So they're back into the bike park for the final time. This is Hobson, and unlike the first time round, they didn't have to wear a vest. They've got to wear a vest on the second time. Carter realizes that. He's gone back for his vest because he's got his number on. That's what they need, the number. And as none of them are wearing it, you saw Hobson pick up his vest, but someone else who's forgot is McMartin. So he's come back for his number. Well, that's cost him the race, I would suggest. So this is Carter, Pig, and Hobson. What a great bike by Pig once again. So this is the first time we've seen Carter on the Pro Tour. He's been racing the ITU World Cup. He's been in this situation with Brad Bevan, and he's thinking, well, at least Brad Bevan isn't here to kick away from me. He's done that all season on the World Cup, and I've got the likes of McMartin, Hobson, and Pig with me, and I think I've got a good shout at this race. So there we are, Carter, Pig, and Hobson, and this is Carter. 24-year-old. Comes from St Heliers in Auckland this year. He's finished 7th at Amakusa World Cup, 9th in Osaka. He was 1st at Sion in Switzerland, 2nd recently in National City, and 3rd at Wilkes-Barre last year. He's just in fact come 2nd in Drummondville in the World Cup race, and had a great 2nd in Derry. At Noumea early this year, he was 2nd to Simon Lessing down in New Caledonia. But this is Hobson in 2nd position. You can see, like the women, they are desperate for fluids. We're about an hour after the women, and the temperature, it's a few degrees higher. It's the high 30s, so we're up around 80s, up in the 80, 85s, and that's very uncomfortable, because they're only going to be out there for an hour and a half as opposed to normally 2 hours. I say only, but the thing is with this, it's a sprint, and they're going much quicker. But Carter looks very controlled here, very much within himself. A fine performance by Carter. Haven't seen much of him. I certainly haven't seen much of him this year, but for me, this is an impressive performance, and I'm surprised that Bevan has been able to beat him. But of course, Bevan is a classy runner, and that's one thing that Hamish Carter has to improve on if he wants to win these major races when you've got the big runners in it. And of course today, Welsh isn't in the field, Lessing isn't in the field, and Bevan isn't in the field, and I suppose those three are the best runners in the sport. This is Hobson in 2nd place, the 28-year-old from Boulder, and that's where Mike Pig lives nowadays, up there with his wife Marcia. He spends the winter down in Arcata, California, but Hobson, well, he now owns a wine bar up there with a friend of his. If you're up in Boulder, Colorado, look up the wine bar of Wes Hobson. But look up here, this is Hamish Carter, the St Helier-born Aucklander from New Zealand. He's coming up to win his first Pro Tour race this year. In fact, I think it's his first Pro Tour race ever. He was very much in contention last year, 2 years ago at Mountain Man, but this year it's first at Toronto. 1 hour, 22 minutes and 33 seconds. 16 minutes and 16 seconds was his run split. This is Hobson coming into 2nd place, 1 hour, 22 minutes and 48 seconds, 16:25 run split. And in 3rd position, the local favourite, Andrew McMartin. And, well, he was only 20 seconds or so behind them. And Mike Pig, after that fine performance on the bike, dropped a little to finish 4th in 1:23.34. Now that's Hobson being congratulated by his girlfriend who raced in the previous race. There we are, he says, I love that. And, well, we also caught up with him.
A lot of fun. I did a series in Australia, just the same format, so I knew what to expect. And it's hard, fast racing, but it's kind of cool.
And I knew coming into this race, Hamish would be the toughest one to beat. I've been training with him some in Boulder. He's been there for 3 weeks, and he's always been tough, and he's really on form. But I feel good. I mean, I had a good run, and my run's finally coming around.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to finish well. I don't race very much in Canada, and so when I get a chance to, I certainly want to give all the fans and all the people a good showing. But with this crowd, you know, guys like Mike Pig here, you never know what can happen.
Well, I had a lot of fun, man. That was awesome.
You really liked it?
Oh, yeah, I like that second swim. You get to cool off a little bit.
There we are. There are winners. It was an Antipodean double. Hamish Carter for the men, McKeely Jones for the women. So that's Carter receiving it from the main sponsor. Carter, McMartin, and Hobson was second, of course. There's